Welcome to the Potter Blog site, May 19th, 2013. The U.S. government is preparing to purchase 512 million syringes for pandemic hemorrhagic bird flu vaccinations. Now, the media has not reported the hemorrhagic nature of the H7N9 bird flu, but it's clearly indicated in Chinese studies via the term disseminated intravascular coagulation. Now, we're going to cover all of this in more detail later in the video, but first I'm just going to give you a quick summary of the video for those of you who just want to watch for a very short bit and understand what we're talking about here, and then we'll go into further detail on what you can do about it later on in the video. But here's the quick summary of what's going on here with this hemorrhagic bird flu. Zoom in here, try to make it just a little easier to read. Alright. The U.S. government has released a $0.6 billion medical countermeasures purchase order. It's available on BizOps. Number 2, H7N9 is a hemorrhagic flu. Think Ebola-like. H7N9 spreads via migratory bird movements. Number 4, feral pigeons are a prime potential source for human infection. Number 5, H7N9 is nearly 100% fatal without long-term advanced life support equipment. 6, H7N9 is around 25% fatal with advanced life support equipment. 7, the amount of available advanced life support equipment is very limited. 8, the U.S. government is prepping to order 512 million syringes. 9, there are only about 300 million people in the U.S., so roughly you're looking at 2 shots for every man, woman, and child in the country. 10, the FDA has never approved adjuvants for flu vaccine, but is prepping to do so for the H7N9 vaccine. That's very important. 11, adjuvants have been tied by the CDC to serious flu vaccine side effects such as narcolepsy. 12, the U.S. government is shifting adverse vaccine treatment reaction reporting away from the FDA in this event and towards BARDA. 13, the Congress is seeking to vastly overfund the Vaccine Injury Trust Fund. And number 14 here, roll this up. The U.S. government is looking for tactical simulation tools to model crowd dynamics. And what we believe is the best risk mitigation decisions in light of the government's hemorrhagic bird flu preparations are: 1 is to make yourself aware of the risks from the government solution/actions and what they represent to you as an individual. And 2, purchase chlorhexidine gluconate, CHG, before it goes out of stock. Now, the next 10 minutes of this video is basically going to cover all 14 of these items in some detail, and then we'll go on and mention why chlorhexidine gluconate is important. Basically, it's a surgical wash. You wash your hands with it, and it keeps killing flu germs and bugs for up to 6 hours after you wash with it. But enough of the summary. Now on to the video. The federal government is preparing to order 512 million syringes for vaccination purposes against the hemorrhagic bird flu. And we're going to go into some detail here. We're going to try to keep the video short, and we're going to end by some simple things you can do that other people aren't aware of. But normally we would say flu shmoo. You know, bird flu and stuff's been going around for a long time in China. But there's been very unusual activity that we've noticed out of FedBizOps with regard to the H7N9 bird flu, and that's why we're paying it some attention. This BizOps here for the 512 million needles, and let's look at it here real quick. You zoom in. There it is. 512 million FDA-approved integrated needle and syringe combination units. That's enough to give every person in the United States 2 vaccinations against this bird flu. Now, you heard me use the term hemorrhagic bird flu. That's something most people haven't heard about yet and probably aren't familiar with about this H7N9 bird flu, is that it's hemorrhagic. Ebola is hemorrhagic. What this means is it makes you bleed out. Now, this hasn't been reported much in the news. I don't think it's been reported at all in the news. But if you look through some of the medical reports in PubMed and the Lancet, and here's a prime example of one that came out on April 25th. This is from China. This is examining people who had H7N9 between March 7th and April 8th. And here's the key thing. Actually, there's two key things in here. But one of the primary things is disseminated intravascular coagulation with disease progression. That basically means it's hemorrhagic. Just like Ebola is hemorrhagic. It may not be quite as bad as Ebola, but just so people understand what this means is when people who catch this H7N9 bird flu, as the disease progresses, and it is 100% fatal if you are not under advanced life support in a hospital, and there's only so many beds. But disseminated intravascular coagulation, what this means is that your blood starts to clot inside your body, usually inside your major organs. It starts clotting. Matter of fact, you get so much clotting going on inside your body that it sucks all the clotting factor out of the rest of your blood. So this is why people who have hemorrhagic fevers start bleeding through their skins and eyes, and also in places where they've been stuck with needles. It's because they're clotting so much inside their body, all their clotting factors has gone out from the rest of their blood, and so they start bleeding out everywhere else. So this is, you might as well call this bird Ebola. Now it gets even more troubling in that this stuff is carried by pigeons, and the birds do not come down with the disease. So the birds fly along happy, not even knowing they have it. Now what's interesting about this, and you may have heard that there's been a reduction, or there haven't been any more cases of bird flu in China that have been reported. Well, it just so happens that happens to match perfectly with, and let's look at this article here. I'll show you the headline for in a minute. But it's talking again about the H7N9 bird flu. We'll get it highlighted. It says these cases occurred within a few weeks of migratory bird northward movement through the Yangtze River Delta. See, that's when the local poultry picked it up. And you can just imagine, somebody were to take a couple of infected pigeons and release them in LA or New York with this stuff. I mean, you're bringing together high concentration of infected fowl that probably spread it through bird droppings, bird waste, in with high population areas. Given the hemorrhagic nature of this disease, the fact that it's probably going to come across with migratory bird fowl anyways, and this thing is just a nightmare in the making. And that's why the government is spending $0.6 billion to prepare for this. And it just happens to coincide perfectly with the outbreak of this H7N9. And if we look on FedBiz Ops, let me zoom back here a little bit. Yeah, even today, here's the latest one. Another update to the Medical Countermeasures Clinical Studies Network. If you look at the date on this, May 16th. And if we go in and look at this, we look at this update. And you can see right here the day it was signed. It gets really troubling about these things. If you look what they've changed here, it says a contractor must submit copies, information to responsible BARDA contracting office as follows. So they went from being, here's the key thing, they've went from this organization that deals with basically biowarfare, has gone from getting copies of information to being the primary clearinghouse for this information. Now pay close attention to this. It says, look here, technical representative within 24 hours of FDA notification of the occurrence of the event. So what they've done here is they're taking FDA out of the loop. So if there is some sort of event occurring with these vaccinations, expedited safety report of unexpected life-threatening experiences or death. So if the vaccine kills you, or their treatments kill you, they're cutting the FDA out of it, and the information is going to go directly to BARDA. Now here's another example. Let's see. Must be submitted to BARDA contracting office representative within 24 hours of FDA notification. That was the previous version. Now it's of occurrence of an event. So you can find this online for yourself. But the key thing is that adverse vaccine reactions and treatments are not going directly to the FDA out of this system. They're now going to BARDA. So they're circumventing, in essence, the FDA here. FDA should be the clearinghouse for this type of stuff because that's their experience. We could talk about this for a long time. But there's another interesting thing out of here. And this is was just recently updated as in timing perfectly with H7N9 outbreak. And this is a request for information on simulation modeling of medical countermeasures. But let's go here on the key phrase of what's going on here. This is to provide supportive modeling capabilities and technologies to support the development of public health consequence assessments. Now let's look at this key phrase here. Zoom in. What they're looking for is geosimulation and agent-based modeling of human populations during public health emergencies, including human factors, crowd dynamics, and agent-based modeling techniques. Well, this thing's not written very well. Really, when they're asking for agent-based modeling techniques under this situation, what they really should be asking for is EBO modeling, which is effects-based operations. Very difficult stuff to do well, but just to try to sum it up, they're looking for visualization, simulation tools to get some idea how to deal with crowd dynamics from vaccines and from the spread of this hemorrhagic bird flu. So they're looking for tactical capability here, not strategic, let's vaccinate half the country. They're looking at the spread of this at the tactical level and figuring out crowd dynamics and how to get people to respond and what to do. So we're really looking here at some serious type of stuff that hasn't been done in the United States since probably the Spanish flu came through in the early 1900s. So there's some serious prepping going on here by the federal government on what they're planning to do in response to this bird flu. Now we're not going into huge detail because we want to keep the thing short. We suggest you look at our previous videos for more information. But there are some serious things here, and there are also some harbingers that'll let you know that things are getting more serious quickly. And that is if you start seeing reports of pigeon calls or pigeon abatement efforts. If all of a sudden your local government or the Fed government is going through lots of effort to kill all the pigeons in your city, or even to vaccinate them, something serious is happening. The other thing is adding adjuvants to vaccines. Now, an adjuvant is something you add to a vaccine, and they don't know why or how it works, but what it does is it drives your immune system into hyper overdrive. And according to the CDC, no pandemic flu vaccine or seasonal flu vaccine in the United States has ever used an adjuvant. Now, the reason we don't use them in this country is because they're tied to serious side effects. The last swine flu vaccine supposedly caused narcolepsy in children in Europe. The CDC ties it to adjuvants. If you start seeing them talk about using adjuvants then in flu vaccines, then you know something is seriously going on here, something out of the ordinary. The fact that they've ordered 2 shots for every man, woman, and child in the entire country also tells you something strange is going on. What can you do about it? You can make yourself aware. The question is what's more dangerous? Is it the vaccine? Is the government guessing right or wrong? The risk was the vaccine versus the risks of catching the bird flu. That's something you got to educate yourself on. What can you do about it? Really not a whole hell of a lot. If you're going to get it and die, you're going to get it and die. You can't really cut yourself off to protect yourself from it. But there are a few things, or at least one simple thing you can still do and purchase cheaply that will give you some level of protection. And that's called chlorhexidine gluconate. And it is a surgical scrub that leaves a barrier on your skin that continues to kill bacteria and viruses like the bird flu virus, or even this corona SARS virus, for up to 6 hours after you've washed with it. It's basically, it is an invisible glove. We have links to it on the Potter blog site, and I guess I'll show you that real quick. This is the link on the Potter blog site, www.potterblog.com. The link we mentioned here is Buy It Now, H7N9 Flu Pandemic Will Spark Run on CHG. CHG also works on the SARS coronavirus. But let me show you what we recently purchased here locally. Turn on some light. This is a bottle you can buy at Walgreens. This is a 8 fluid ounce, no name brand bottle. This bottle at our local Walgreens I think cost $11. So extremely expensive. If you bought the brand name bottle of this, I think it costs like $14 or $15 for 8 fluid ounces. So what we found is the best place to buy this stuff is on Amazon, and that's why we have Amazon links for it. And this is the 1 gallon size of chlorhexidine gluconate solution, 4% weight by volume. Hibiclens is the brand name. Now, what's interesting is Hibiclens has also been in the news because Angelina Jolie's doctors recommended that she wash her chest with the stuff for a few days before she had her surgery recently. So it's interesting how the stuff makes it in the news. Key thing to remember about this is I've described it as being like a surgical glove. In some ways it's better because it kills the stuff that comes onto your hands for 6 hours after you wash with it. Now, here are the links we show on our Amazon page, the stuff we purchased. We put up 2 different kinds, the medical chlorhexidine gluconate, that's for humans, and the veterinary chlorhexidine gluconate, animals and wash up and stuff. People use this, they use this in the hospital also to disinfect surfaces. It's a little bit cheaper for the, actually it's a lot cheaper for the veterinary version, but it's usually also half the strength as the human version. The reason to have the veterinary version is because, again, as we mentioned, feral pigeons, bird droppings, is that are some indications that dogs have been killed in China because of this. It's not clear, but it's certainly plausible that your pets can pick it up, pick up H7N9 from pigeon droppings or whatever else. So it's a good vector way to protect your pets, and hence you from your pets coming down with it. But pretty simple to use, very inexpensive compared to what you'll have to pay for a small bottle at your local Walgreens to buy it on Amazon. It's what we've purchased. If there's one bit of advice here is if you do buy it on Amazon, or from anywhere where you have to buy it from, it's best to buy it in the spring or fall, because there are temperature limitations on chlorhexidine gluconate. It shouldn't be kept above 104 degrees for too long, and it's best kept at room temperature. So if you're shipping something for a long time during the summer, like in a tractor trailer, and it's very hot, it may degrade the product. So now's the time to buy it for future use. And by that same standpoint, if you buy it online at Amazon, usually you get 3 or 4 or 5 different vendors who are selling it, some for slightly different prices. If you click on the vendors and see where they're located at and where they ship from, it's much better to pay a little bit more to buy it from a vendor that's close to you and will get it to you quickly. So those are the things to consider.